a lot of people don't know this, but we know that in order to become a nutritionist, what do you got to do?
Anyone can really call
Nothing.
themselves a nutritionist.
Nothing.
You don't have to
put the label, give yourself the label of nutritionist, and you are a nutritionist.
Yeah.
But in order to be an RD, what does the process look like? Does it differ depending on where you are? And like, what exactly do you go through from schooling, from like the beginning, the day you get out of high school until the day you call yourself an RD? What does that all entail? Like, what does the entire process entail? I think going into detail with that would be very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. So first and foremost is a DPD, which is a didactic program in dietetics. I'm pretty sure, hopefully I got that right. But it's a DPD. And so it's basically, I got that in undergrad. That was going through 4 years of undergraduate schooling to get that, take all the courses. And in 2024, I believe that.
So that's that's essentially your bachelor's degree, right? Your
Correct.
4 year. Right. And do it during that, you have like your gen ed credits, right? Your general education credits, but then a lot of like specialty like courses, right? That would be like, what would be an example of some of the coursework that you do at that point?
Yeah, so one of the main core courses is medical nutrition therapy, MNT, which is basically, talking about chronic diseases and nutrition therapies for those.
Okay, gotcha. But you have a variety of different, I'm sure, like required courses, and also like, do you have to take like biology? Do you have to take like physics? Like what else?
Oh yeah, we had all of the fun science courses: biology, chemistry, lots of chemistry, which was unfortunate. And then some fun things like food science. So thinking about like how different ingredients combine with each other in dishes, the nutritional properties of all of them. So some fun stuff too.
Cool. What was your favorite course in undergrad, and what was your least favorite course?
Okay. Least favorite for sure was chemistry.
Was is it organic chemistry? Because my brother was a biology major and he said organic chemistry was the worst class period.
So organic chemistry was my favorite chemistry, actually.
Okay.
I know. Everyone's either one or the other. The general chemistry I did not like, but I actually did like organic chemistry because I felt like it applied more to what I was going to be doing in nutrition. So those would definitely be my least favorite. I think my favorite course was, I took a sports nutrition course. So that filled like an elective that you can choose, your specific area of interest. And so I did sports nutrition. And that was a really good one.
Because it seems like it's right up it's exactly what you're interested in, why you got into doing it in the first place.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Right. So so you start out, you go through your undergrad, you do all your gen ed credits, you do these specialized classes. You have some that are, you can take, like you just said, electives, others that you are like set in stone that you have to take these specific courses. After you get through all of that, what's the next? Do you graduate? And then select a new place to go? Can you go to the same university? Like, what's the next step?
Yeah, so this is the fun part. This was probably the worst time during this whole thing. So you have to, basically it's called a matching process. So you have to, it's kind of, I think doctors go through a similar process. So basically you apply to a bunch of schools, application fees, applications, every school is different. And then on match day, you get the program who wants you chooses you. So you can only go to that program who matched you. You don't get to pick and choose where you go. So, you have to rank them, and then whichever lowest rank also picks you is where you go. Does that make sense?
Lowest rank, you mean your least preferred option or your most preferred option?
Your most preferred. So
Okay.
Whichever one is higher on your list. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. And so, but when you originally go into your undergrad, there's nothing like that. You just go to whatever school you apply to and get accepted to, and you just go through that.
Yeah, you do have to get accepted into their dietetic program. So that's it's not as rigorous as the matching, but you still have to get accepted into that program.
What do you have to do to get into that? Are there any like requirements like previous before that they look for, or?
I think it's just GPA, pretty much GPA, and making sure that you have the prerequisites. Like freshman year is when you get the prerequisites, and then sophomore year is when you actually apply into that program.
Oh, okay. So you're not actually into the dietetics program until after you've already gone through your freshman year.
Correct.
Gotcha. So then if you have like a crappy GPA, they might disqualify you from getting into it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what happens that you get matched, and did you have any schools that were like all the way across the country that were on you applied to, and you were like, I really hope I don't get like the University of Idaho or something?
Oh my gosh. So I did not. I took a lot of time thinking about it because I was like, all right, might as well just apply to like 20 different schools, hoping that I get one because it is very, very competitive. But I ended up just sticking to Ohio. I wasn't quite ready to leave, my family and where I was growing up in the state. So I just chose Ohio. Although I will say I believe I did top 5. So I picked 5 schools, and my 5th one, I was like, if I get this, I'm going to be very upset because I really don't want to go here. But
Do you want to share? Do you want to share which one it was?
yeah, that it was Case Western.
Where are they?
They're somewhere like I think Akron area, I want to say.
Oh, okay.
Don't quote me on that, but somewhere in that area. And I was, or no, Cleveland.
I've only ever been to Cleveland in Ohio.
It might be Cleveland, one of those areas.
One of those crappy places like Cleveland or Akron.
And I was like, man, I'm gonna be really upset if I get that, but it all worked out. So
Nice.
yeah.
Awesome. So you apply, you get accepted to your master's program. What happens next? Like, how many years does the program take? Like, what's the coursework look like? That sort of thing.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, in 2024, they are actually going to require dietitians to get a master's degree at the same time of their internship. In my case, I just chose to do them at the same time because one, I love school and studying, and I was like, if I'm ever going to get my master's, might as well do it now. But two,
So
I think
if you didn't decide to do that, you would have been able to like just do an internship and get without having a master's, but basically just having a bachelor's.
correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead. Sorry. And what was the second one?
Yeah, and just kind of going off of that, the way that I was thinking is, okay, if they're going to require it in a couple years, then all of these, new graduates that are coming out are going to have a leg up on me, and I don't want that to happen. I want to stay competitive. So
Makes
in
sense.
my head, I was like, well, if I don't get the master's now, I'm not going to end up going back to school because that's just too hard for me as far as the stage of life I'm in. So that was kind of what made that decision for me.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So then once you get in there and you said you decided to do internship in combination with school, how long does that take? How many hours of your like how do you get selected for where you're going to do your internship or who you're going to work with?
Yeah, great question. So for my program with the master's and internship combined, it was a 16-month program. So a little less than 2 years, like a year and a half or so.
Mhm.
And the internship was 1,200 hours of supervised practice, which was completely unpaid, which was a lot of work, but
Yeah, 1,200 hours.
fortunately,
How many? That's like 40 hours a week for like how many weeks?
oh, it's I'm not good at mental math,
I'm not
but
going to
it's a
math it
lot.
out. But that's probably like at least like what, like 3 or 4 months of like a full-time job.
I think it's more like 6 or 7, I want to say. You'll have to do the
You
math.
said
But
1,200 hours?
yeah, 1,200.
Yeah, okay, so that's 30 weeks, which is like, yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, actually that's like half a year, like more than half a year of a full-time job.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a lot. And I actually paid for it. You have to pay, all of these different kinds of fees. So it's like you're paying to work for free, which is kind of
Oh,
crazy to me. But
yeah.
yeah. So it's a lot. But I will say, as far as that experience was, I had a lot of different rotations. So every month or two, I would go to a new site. So it was hospitals, which was a clinical setting. It was outpatient centers, which was a community setting. Schools. It was, different, seeing different athletic programs. It was a lot of different places. So for that, I'm really grateful that I got to, have so many different experiences.
So what type of work are you doing at all of these different locations? And is it like you work at one place for like a month and another place for a month, or is it like depending on the day of the week, it's different?
Yeah, so it's usually one at a time for anywhere from 1 to 3 months is where you're at a specific location. So some of them were only a month long, and some of them were a couple months. And typically the longer ones were like at a hospital setting or an outpatient clinic setting where you would actually be doing counseling with the patients of those places.
Gotcha. And
Mhm.
during that time, did you have like a specific one that you kind of like tended to favor type of work?
Yeah, so my all-time favorite rotation out of those 16 months was actually my last rotation, which was at WIC, which is Women, Infant, and Children. It's a center, helping pregnant women, postpartum, and then, children as well. So that was honestly my favorite, and it happened to be the last one that I was at. So it was awesome.
Nice. Awesome. So then you're doing your coursework. You have your 1,200 hours of supervised practice that you need to do. After that, then you get your certification. Is there like a GPA standard? Like, do you need to do actually like good during your super, or if you're just like horrible, do they not give it? Do you still get it if you're like horrible? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so the supervised practice where we were in our rotations, we didn't necessarily get graded on a GPA scale. It was mostly, you get feedback from your preceptor, which was our person who was in charge of us at every rotation, and you would get feedback from them. And if you did terrible, then you would have to do another similar rotation, but that doesn't typically happen. But the GPA in the courses for our master's degree was what really mattered. So we had to get a B- or better in every course that we took.
Right. I see. So then after all of this happens, you get you graduate and you get your RD certification.
Mm-hmm.
So almost 6-year period.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more than that. So once you graduate from master's and get your internship all signed off, then you have to study for the exam, which is a big, credentialed exam, obviously. And typically people study for a couple months. Sometimes people study for up to a year. So yeah, it's a very, very big exam. So I spent a couple months studying for that.
And this is after you are done with the rotation and all your coursework.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Gotcha. So it's basically like your equivalent of like taking the bar exam.
Exactly. Yep.
And what's the name of the exam again?
It's just the RD, Registered Dietitian exam.
Okay, gotcha. And would you describe it? Was it actually difficult when you got it and you get your grade back, or is it like a pass fail type thing?
Dude, I'll tell you, everything I studied, nothing was on the exam. Like, it was everything that I did not study. I was like, I don't know how. I did fine on it. It's not like I barely passed or anything, but I was like, holy shit, this is unlike anything I've ever seen before. But apparently my intuition did me fine. So
I guess that's what I said before you came on this podcast. I was like, if you know your stuff,
mm-hmm.
You don't need to prepare that much.
Exactly. Yes. But yeah, hardest exam hands down I've ever taken. Yeah.
And then after all of this is done, then you finally get those 2 letters next to your name, RD.
Yeah, well, first of all, you have to pay for, all of the different credentialing and go through and get the licensing. And so the process isn't quite over once you pass.
It's still not over. What the hell?
It's still not over. Man, I'll tell you, it's a process. But yeah, after you get, pay for the licensing and all of that, then you finally get to put it after your name.
Got it. And you get like a nice little plaque or something at least?
So they didn't even send me one in person. They just like messaged me online with a little plaque that's a picture, but they didn't send me anything.
That's lame. They even sent me like for my NASM certifications, they send me a piece of paper that has my stuff on it, all of them. Like, even for NASM, they do that. I was thinking like all this time and money on your RD certification, they don't even send you like a real like paper hard copy.
Like, how you always see when you go into someone's office, all of their credentials up on the wall. I was like, great, I'll be able to have that. I was like, nothing. They don't give you anything.
Oh.
I know.
So I think one of the reasons why I wanted to go, I think it's really educational and it's eye-opening. And I actually learned quite a bit. I hope the people listening did too. But also, if you say like, oh, I'm a registered dietitian versus a nutritionist, you're like, I went to school for that. They're like, yeah, sure, great. I went to school too.
Yeah.
Like the difference in the amount of time and effort and work, and like you really got to want it to be an RD versus, I can just decide whenever to be a nutritionist. Like there's a huge difference there.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. There's so much shit that you have to go through, and albeit it was worth it. It was well worth it. And, like I said, it's not that I don't think that there's value in that certification. There absolutely is. It's just not the end all be all.